Hello and welcome to another edition of the Father and Son Pastime Podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin. How are you?
That's my dad. Episode 4, almost John Cena can't see me, episode of the day of our Offseason Outlook series. This is the NL Central. If you're new to us here at the Father and Son Pastime Podcast, what that means is we are going to dive deep on the 5 teams of the NL Central, going over their losses. That's what I'll be covering. And the needs of this offseason that my dad will be covering. His favorite team, not one of. His number one favorite team is in this division, so I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about the Chicago Cubs. But, Dad, we're going to start with the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to go in order of how they finished last year. So the Brewers, best team technically in baseball, in regular season baseball, right?
Yeah.
Most wins.
Yeah, and a really good manager. He does a great job.
Always take the over on the Brewers. DraftKings in Vegas never liked the Brewers. Take that over. I cashed out in end of August. They hit their over. So just put that in perspective. Speaking of money, I am also, if you're new to this series, I like to share how much money I think each team is going to spend in a given offseason. And I'll kind of do that probably either towards the end of my bit or at the end of the entire thing that my dad goes through to kind of give a frame of reference on how much money we think each team will be spending this offseason. So, Dad, let's dive right into the Brewers. They were supposed to lose Brandon Woodruff, but he got signed to a qualifying offer, very surprisingly. Mm-hmm. Took the, $22 million or so and stayed with the Brewers one more year. That definitely made things tighter in their purse strings. We'll get to that.
Yes.
They lost Rhys Hoskins. At one point was a really good player, especially for the Phillies. Got injured last year, became very replaceable. So not a terrible loss there. They traded for Jordan Montgomery to get, they got 2 people in that package, and it was really just, we'll take Montgomery's salary knowing
Correct.
He's never going to pitch for us, so that's not even really a loss there either. Shelby Miller, I think, was that person that they acquired from Arizona that they hoped to have something in the bullpen, mm-hmm. and he, I believe, also was injured the entire time with the Brewers. Eric Fetty from, I think, the Cardinals midseason, Danny Jansen, Jose Quintana. Just a lot of role players. Outside Woodruff, nobody was a massive impact to their 2025. So I wouldn't say they had a lot of major names that they're losing this offseason. Dad, what do they need?
You know what? It's going to be interesting. They have a lot of youth, and they are pretty strong through the lineup. I mean, their success last year was starting pitching, kind of role players doing their thing, some nice speed, and they ran the bases well, some nice defense. They were really a solid overall team, and they went on a run mid-season that they were playing like .650 baseball. However, the thing that you see is with Woodruff coming back, are they going to trade a starting pitcher for some things? Because right now one of their strengths might be young starting pitching. Coming up, they got some flamethrowers in the hopper. But as they went through the playoffs, one of the things you saw was they had a couple bullpen days. So with that in mind, I'm thinking they could, get a couple middle of the road starting pitchers, let them, develop, build up that rotation. Again, that kind of went affected the bullpen, some bullpen arms, and maybe a little bit of bench. But right now, their everyday lineup is pretty solid. They're getting a little old in some spots, but right now, I'm thinking this overall depth, 3, 4, 5 starting pitchers, just, to have some leadership in that starting rotation, and then go from there. But each year, they find a way to win with the role players they have, and then they, seem to play very good team baseball, some small ball along the way. So I think the tweaks are going to be minor, but again, they'll be ready for next season with some minor tweaks.
Agreed, Dad. I literally wrote not a lot in my column that said what do they need. I had this team projected to spend about $45-ish million in the offseason. Woodruff just ate half that. So I kind of wrote 20. They're at 113 with Woodruff signing, and this is a little bit of estimate with arbitration. On the docket for 2026, they spent 137 last year. They do like to leave a little bit of room for mid-season acquisitions. They kind of almost factor that in, that they'll be competitive and trying for this. I wrote down that the one thing they could upgrade or platoon is shortstop. I thought Joey Ortiz had a great year at third in 2024. When they moved him to short, he wasn't as good. I don't know if the position change freaked him out. But Jose Iglesias, a Ahmed Rosario type of person to kind of complement him, I think would be a very Brewers-esque move. But they do have pitching depth. I think Peralta is the person you mentioned that they could get traded. Trade them if they have to. See what injuries might happen in the spring training. Robert Gasser should be back. Hopefully we see a full year of Mizorowitz.
Unbelievable. He's a hard thrower.
Yeah.
A tall, thin, young pitcher, but a hard thrower. And then the games that he started, he went 4 or 5 innings, and he was untouchable sometimes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's got some future ahead of him.
I think the Brewers obviously will be a playoff team next year. Will they win the Central again? Will they be a wild card team? Remains to be seen. But Core's coming back. Back-to-back managers of the year. It's really hard to bet against them at this point. Dad, would you like to move on to the Cubbies?
Sure.
Do you want me to do the losses, or do you want to do? You want to do the needs or losses? It's your team.
Do the losses, because that seems to ducktail pretty well when you do that and get in there.
They lost a lot, and I would love for you to explain to me and the viewers the Shada Amanaga just whole saga. I didn't really like that. So he was lost. He wasn't lost. He signed the qualifying offer, turning down options. Very weird saga there. They lost the biggest name of the offseason class with Kyle Tucker. I don't think they'll re-sign him for what it's worth, but you'll tell me more there. He has a qualifying offer attached to him. They traded Andrew Kittredge back to the Orioles. Thought that was kind of interesting. They lost their entire bullpen, in my opinion. Theobald Pomeranz, Brad Keller, even Ryan Brazier should get a mention as Taylor Rogers at midseason acquisition. All of those names are gone. Some backups like Justin Turner, Reese McGuire, Willie Castro, very, very late season ad, Michael Soroka, Aaron Savali, Carlos Santana, some of those were August or even September ads. But they did lose a lot of big pieces. I would like to say, again, the bullpen is, I'm sure, a need you'll talk about, and then what happens with outfield/DH with Tucker, I think will be something they'll have to address. And then Justin Steele is out to May. Sometimes we will include big injuries and their timeline.
Well done. I
try. Thank you, everybody.
Shota Imanaga, just a real quick recap. I think the Cubs play chicken. They said, okay, we're not gonna do our extension and our part of the contract thing that Shota would grab the player option and then sign for less. When he didn't do that, I think the Cubs were like, oh, we didn't see that one coming. And then all of a sudden, I think for the draft choice that they thought the qualifying offer would get, they thought Shota was going to leave. And then all of a sudden, he took $22 million. He got like a $6 million raise just by not taking his option. So Shota played his hand well. And the Cubs are saying, oh, it's great to have him back. But they were counting on that money for the offseason. And that was $22 million. So I think they probably, you'll get into it more, but I think they got $40 million-ish. Right now, they're going to lose Tucker. They have some people in the minors that may play right field, but it lessens their lineup, especially during the middle of the lineup. So replacing Tucker is the big part of the lineup. How do you do that? The other thing is, like you mentioned, complete rebuild of the bullpen. They signed Phil Maton, number 88, already. Apparently, they'll sign 4 or 5 other relief pitchers. They want a big name starting pitcher. They want an ace type. They're willing to spend for an ace type. It's going to be interesting how they play the money game with what money they have out there available, and they want to sign a big ticket item, and then they want to sign a bunch of $9-10 million price players. We'll see how far the budget goes, but they're big on their farm system. Thinking they're going to replace Tucker with a AAA guy. We'll see what happens. But right now, I'm thinking the way that Jed is talking, he wants to trade more than free agents. So he may be in the market to trade for a pitcher of 3-4 years with some of his minor league all-stars, and we'll see what happens. They have enough players to trade. so they can fill in. But right now, if I'm the Cubs, I really concentrate on the starting and relief pitching and go from there. They got a nice core of young players and they've done well, but they need to add pieces, bench especially. They need to get a much better bench. But yeah, we'll see how far the money goes.
I think they will push closer to $50 million spent in free agency. There's about a $48 million gap from this year's current projected salary to last year's final payroll. Very similar to the Brewers. They might add some at the deadline. I think this will be a playoff team as well. But again, with a bat of some kind, a right fielder, a DH, and just like I said about the Royals in a previous podcast, any reliever will be linked to the Cubs this offseason. You don't have to read the article. If they've pitched in relief in 2025 and they're a free agent, the Cubs are talking to them. It's really that simple. I don't know if Palencia is your closer. He is young. I don't know if he just becomes like a setup guy. He's really good. Or you go out and get a true replacement closer. I think there's a starter need. I mean, it goes Monica and a drop-off. I mean, Horton is a good rookie. I think he should have won Rookie of the Year. Can he do it again? And then it's, Boyd and Rhea and Tejon and an injured Justin Steele, Javier Assad, swingman. So I think you do need a number 2. And I don't know if Monica is an ace-level pitcher. I feel like
he's not. He had a bad second half.
I feel like he's a 2.
Yeah.
And I think the Cubs almost thought that when they signed him, that he was a 2.
They have 2 soft left-handed pitchers. And, they got to space them in a rotation, but neither one of them throw around, really above 90. And then once Shota pulled his hamstring, he went, like 88. So he got hit pretty hard in the second half, and the playoffs he really got hit hard. So I'm thinking, does the offseason he get stronger? But then Boyd now turns 35. There's some question marks of what even they have in a rotation. So we'll see what happens. But Jed loves to keep money for the trade deadline. So out of that $50 million, I think it's more like $35 million he's going to spend.
Mm-hmm. I saw a projected 1-for-1 trade of Owen Cassie for Sandy Alcantara, and I think that is unique because it's very risky for both parties. Because if Sandy becomes a former, Cy Young guy again, Marlins may miss out on that trade because we don't know how good this lauded outfield prospect is, but the Marlins kind of need prospect controllable hitters. Yeah. And they have a ton of pitching, so I've seen that floated around and both sides don't like it. So if you're a Cubs fan or a Marlins fan, I don't think you're signing Sandy long term. I think if anything, you should welcome that trade. But I think they still see Sandy as a 2023 level ace.
Yeah, and he didn't have a great year, by the way.
No, I know that. Coming back from injury and all that stuff. But again, it's a risk. It's a risk to trade. It's a risk to acquire. I would say this guy's a lot better and more established, but yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, both coming off injuries.
Dad, let's talk about the Reds.
Sure.
I decided to wear a red shirt for this. It's a Griffey shirt. He's not on the team anymore. I think he's still getting paid by them. But the Reds made the playoffs this year. We kind of thought that going into our predictions back in last March that, hey, maybe we get, Tito another Manager of the Year award. They get a not a World Series run, but like a nice playoff run. They got ousted extremely quickly by the Dodgers. They are going to be a very interesting team to watch for 2026. Very interesting to see how they approach free agency. So if you are just a casual fan, the Reds, I would say, lost a lot of pieces. Nothing irreplaceable. So you're going to hear a lot of names. Quantities high, qualities mid. Biggest name I think they lost was probably Nick Martinez. He was a qualifying offer last year. That kind of was a surprise QO guy. And Zach Littell. So they were 2 starters, lost, but they have starters. They have a lot of starters. They have a really solid 5. They also lost people like Wade Miley, people in the bullpen, Scott Barlow, Brent Suter, Austin Hayes, Miguel Andujar, Emilio Pagan, Ian, I think it's Guiba, I think it's French, but he's a reliever, and Santiago Espino got released / non-tendered from this team as well. They don't have that much money to spend at, so I'm really curious to see how you address their needs, and I won't tell you that figure until I hear your breakdown.
I think and you got to give them Cincinnati credit, they do have some really bright stars on the pitching end of things. With that ballpark, they really need to improve their offense, especially in the power, because that ballpark's made for home run hitters. So if you're a free agent and you're looking to reestablish your career or add to a team that's up and coming, I think they look at the offensive aspect of it, especially if you're a power hitter, because the ball flies out of that park. So I think they are kind of like settled with a pretty good rotation. A lot of guys throw hard. Green is one of them. But offensively, maybe especially in the outfield, if they can add a power hitter or two to help that lineup, I think that it makes them a lot better. And then along the way, probably add to the bullpen. But I think right now their number one get is an offensive power hitter.
Agreed. I kind of just wrote first base DH. I necessarily didn't say power hitter, but sure, I respect that. I have very little payroll space. I'm seeing in $20 million, they'll be at their 2025 expenditures. That, in my mind, takes them out the running for, I know that Kyle Schwarber has rumors. I think it takes them out of running for that because then they can't replace like anything else. I think they do need either more bullpen names or a closer with losing Pagan. Great starters, bullpen shaky. So I would say again, first base and DH that's affordable, realistic, and then some sort of 8th, 9th inning guy that can be a stable thing. When remember they had Alexis Diaz on this team, and it was like, Diaz in Cincinnati, Diaz in New York. Alexis Diaz is released. Nobody picked him up. He had like a 7.5 ERA this year. And then Edwin is going to be, he is a free agent, and who knows where he'll sign this offseason. So yeah, I think they need a couple pieces, and they have to be very selective, or they have to finally spend some money if Cincinnati wants to be a competitive team moving forward. Not so much in the ilk of the Red Sox and the Yankees. What do they do with some youth? But they had a bunch of shortstops, and they're like, what do we do with Noel Marte?
Yeah.
What do we do with Matt McClain and maybe this guy named Gavin Lux was also an addition last year. So I think they have a lot of athletes. I just don't know if there's spots for everybody.
De La Cruz.
They haven't, remember Nick Hines, or sorry, not Nick Hines, Reese Hines, Christian Encarnacio Strand. They have some.
Yeah.
You might want to move on from a couple of those guys, see if they just do better in a different place, package them up, save maybe a couple million, and then put that towards a bullpen arm or whatever. But I agree with you. There needs to be some offensive pop for them to feel like a weapon, like a feared team in MLB. Dad, let's now go to the Cardinals, right? Cardinals were 4th. All right, so Cardinals will be 5th, in my opinion, coming up in 2026.
They're kind of playing their cards ready.
That's we get silly after all these episodes, folks. On paper, the Cardinals didn't lose much. They lost Miles Mikolas to free agency, and then they non-tendered Jorge Alcala, John King, and Michael Ciani. No real losses there. But they've traded Sonny Gray already, and they're rumored to trade more. Arenado's always in rumors. It seems like Brendan Donovan or Nolan Gorman or both have been rumored. They have 2 catchers right now. Technically, I think they have 3 catchers on the roster. So Pages or Herrera might get moved. And I mean, that's not counting Contreras, who's now a first baseman. And Jordan Walker, that experiment might also be over. So there's a lot of trades looming. They have a lot of prospects knocking, which I really like. And that I won't kind of identify potential losses there. Are they just going to be a lot of one-year contract, trade them at the deadline, folks, or no signings at all?
You know what? I'm surprised that the manager still has a job. I thought for sure they'd get rid of the manager.
I haven't liked him for years.
Yeah. I think you're seeing what St. Louis is going to do from June on. They're going to just erase the roster they had 2 years ago. I think they're going to come up with a young, athletic team, because before they weren't that athletic. I don't think they're going to be delving into the free agent market. I think they're going to purge the roster with younger players like they did already with Boston. I can just see them kind of like, this season, we're just going to rebuild. And I think we'll make some trades. I think Arenado will definitely will go. Who knows? He's, 35 now? Something of that nature.
Yeah, I think he's a little older than me.
Yeah.
I think he's born in 90.
So I just think that, they're going to make 3 or 4 major trades this offseason, fill the roster, hope for the best. But again, I think your prediction is right. If things go the way that they're looking, they're going to be a last place team. I just think it's going to be trades and purge the roster.
He'll be 35 in the season.
Yeah.
His birthday's in April.
Yeah.
So he's a 91 guy, not a 90 guy. I apologize.
I mean, he was the third baseman for a long, long time, and now you're at 35. Does he have the same reactions and everything? So I think his prime is gone.
I wrote Arenado's 6 teams here, and I think it's the Red Sox backup if Bregman goes elsewhere. And again, his hitting's. He's never really been. He was a fine hitter, but his obviously hitting's going down a little bit now. The 6 teams he said he would approve a trade to, and we've seen him stick to the 6. He declined the trade to Houston last year. The Dodgers, who I think pretty seem set with Max Muncy. The Padres have Machado, so they're 2 teams automatically out. The Angels are interesting.
Yeah,
The Angels are an interesting team. They can trade for him.
Yeah.
They have the ability to. Philly, we've heard Bohm rumors. The Mets, they have too many infielders. That seems unlikely. And then the Red Sox, who, again, I think is like a backup plan. So there are teams that would still be interested in Nolan Arenado, even though he's half of what he was, 60% of what he was. And, again, he's one of my all-time favorite players. I have multiple shirts and all that stuff of him. Just got to be realistic about what he brings to the table with maybe 3 or 4 seasons left. And, again, I think he's a Hall of Famer. Not knocking Nolan Arenado. But yeah, I think there's just going to be a lot of 1-year contracts, and they'll flip them at the deadline for some more prospects just to fill out the roster. They have no pitching. They really don't. Liberatore, Matthew McGreevy, and Andre Palante are 1, 2, 3, and I think you're looking at 5, 5, 5 on most other teams. Palante I thought would be non-tendered. So yeah, I just don't see, and then there's no bullpen. There's just nobody there.
Their starters barely got out of the 3rd inning because with the times that I watched the Cardinals, whoever was pitching, they never made it out of the 3rd or 4th inning, and they went to the bullpen day after day after day and just burnt out the bullpen. So they were using 5 pitchers a game. So that kind of explains a lot of their record. They just lost a lot of games because they didn't have the healthy pitchers to pitch the innings. So that was the big weakness, in my opinion.
Dad, let's close out with the Pirates, the cheapest team ever. I don't know, it's up there.
But did you read they're supposed to be active this winter?
You know what? I'm buying that with a grain of salt. I think they will sign like one name and tell their fans that we did something more than Andrew McCutchen. But no, I don't think they'll be like. Someone said they're rumored to Kyle Schwarber.
Right.
I'll take that bet that they don't sign Kyle Schwarber.
I'll take a big bet on that.
Let's go into it real quick. They didn't lose much. Andrew McCutchen, who they'll resign. Call it what it is. Tommy Pham, who could resign there, actually. It actually was a pretty good fit.
He wants to play more.
And a reliever named Colin Holderman. Again, very similar to the Cardinals, in my opinion. They won't spend much. I can see both these teams spending like $20 million more this offseason just to kind of trade 1-year contracts. So they'll be competitive with each other for the same type of free agents. Dad, I see many glaring holes on this team. Would you like to voice any of those holes?
Yeah, they kind of built their team on starting pitching. They have probably 3 pretty good starters. And, they kind of like, if you get a series, their 3 starters can't compete, but they don't have any offense. They can't score runs. Skeens lost so many games last year, 2-1, 1-0, all that. His record wasn't great, and his ERA was what, 2-ish? And then all of a sudden he's in these games and he's pitching really well, but they're not scoring any runs. Offensively, they need a lot. I think they probably need a lot of power as well. And then, it's another stadium that if you're a power hitter, you're going to do pretty well. But I think they put all their eggs in starting pitching. They need to look at the offense and go from there. But then Paul Skeens, you kind of like say, a lot of rumors around, do they trade him for a boatload of players? He's another dynamic pitcher. So right now, their needs are numerous, but I think a lot of it's on the offensive end and bullpen. I
think like the outfield, whether Reynolds plays left or right, you get a corner. I really like Cruz more as a shortstop. I wish he was back in the infield. They can go get a center fielder. Yeah, they need something like second baseman, shortstop, third baseman is just weak. I don't think Spencer Horwitz at first base is all that much better either.
Yeah.
So I would say you can like upgrade everywhere, like truly.
That's where the power should come from, the corners, and they just don't have it.
Yeah, I have them signing one person on the top 50 free agent list, and then this person's not on the top 50, but just to put it out there as a prediction, I think a Starlin Marte reunion and him and McCutcheon get to retire in the same year could be really fun as a 1-year deal, right off in the sunset on your little pirate ship. I don't know. I think there could still.
Did you get that, people? That was pretty good.
There still could be some fun this year, but yeah, until his ownership invests in this team, I really don't believe in them. I don't care about them,
and the fan base doesn't either. I mean, they're the draw and a beautiful ballpark. The draw is like 15th hour a night.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why they don't spend money, because they don't do anything to entice the fans to come fill the ballpark. And it's a easy to get to ballpark, and they just don't draw well.
They don't.
Yeah.
That is the NL Central, folks. We are going to move on to the West. Since we're such an East Coast biased podcast, we're going to go West. Some of our best viewed videos last year, we're talking about the AL West offseason outlook and the NL West offseason outlook. So we'll see if we can repeat history. But again, thank you for listening. We are the Father and Son Pastime Podcast on Facebook and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pastime Podcast _. And we appreciate it. Let us know. We love interacting with our fans and our listeners.
It's a growing audience.
It is. We had a subscriber today already. So we appreciate you all listening.